Hello, what's up YouTube? Photographer Ronix Tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be showing how you can easily edit a photo in Photoshop, and in this we're going to be learning how you can easily process your raw images, how to color grade, and how to do skin retouching using frequency separation, and finally how to export or save your photos when it comes to Photoshop. So simply like this, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you're watching and you're not yet subscribed to this channel. So just going to come the image that we want to edit and simply click on it, right click and come to open with and come to Photoshop 2025. That's the version I'm using, and it's going to automatically open up the camera raw filter. So when it opens up the camera raw filter, what we have to do, you have to first of all correct the lighting and contrast issues regarding this photo. So I'll come and take the highlights down and do the same for the whites, just like that. And I'll just come and add contrast to the image, then take the blacks down and open up the shadows of this very image. And by just doing that, you can see the before so far, and this is the after. So after I have corrected the lighting and contrast issues regarding this image, you're just going to scroll down to our color mixer option, and we're going to play around with the hue, saturation, and luminance sliders. So we just want to change the hues of the greens. So I'm just going to come to hue and come to the greens and make the greens like a color below it, which is the aquas, just like that. And I also take the slider of the yellows towards the greens to make the greens pop in the background so that they can kind of complement the model, but this looks a little bit oversaturated. So I'll just come to the saturation right here. Remember, saturation is the intensity of a given color, and take the saturation of the greens down just like that to kind of mute the greens in the background. And after doing that, I'll simply come and hit open to open the photo in Photoshop for us to do the next adjustments. So when it comes to Photoshop, the very first thing we tend to do is cropping the image. So I'll just come here and get the crop tool and change the ratio to 4:5 or 8:10. Then click into the image and crop the photo. So I'm just going to crop it at around there and hit enter or return to crop the photo. And after cropping the image, the next thing is going to be working on the skin. So in order to work on the skin, we're basically going to be using a technique known as frequency separation. And remember, frequency separation is a skin retouching technique that is going to divide the image into the colors and the textures. So when we refine the colors and the textures independently, and after refining those two layers and join them, we have to end up with this very same image. So we're going to come to the background layer and simply duplicate it by pressing Ctrl J, or you can use Command J. Press it twice to create those two layers, and name this to low, and name the up layer to high. And after doing that, the next thing is going to be ensuring that we have information. Remember, textures are part of high frequency layer and colors are part of the low frequency layer. So in the low frequency layer, we want to remain with the colors, while in the high frequency layer, we only want to remain with the textures. So just come and turn off the high frequency layer and select the low frequency layer. Then you're simply going to come right here to filter, come to blur, and come to Gaussian blur. So when it comes to Gaussian blur, what we want to do, we only want to remain with the colors in this layer. So just click on the image or an area in the photo that has more skin textures than the rest of the skin. For this case, the forehead area. Then left click on the radius, slide and start taking it up. So drag it up and stop at the point whereby the textures are just starting to disappear from the image. So you left click and drag and stop at the point whereby the textures or skin details are just starting to disappear from the image, and click OK. So we're going to come back to the high frequency layer and now select it and now activate it. And after activating it, simply come to image and come to apply image right here, and it's going to open up the apply image dialog box right here. The source is the name of the image. Then layer, select the low frequency layer. The channel is RGB. The blend mode has to be add because this is a 16-bit image. Opacity at 100%. The scale has to be 2 and offset 0. And after doing that, just come and turn on the invert option, and you'll see the textures on this gray layer. Then if at all you are dealing with an 8-bit image, this is what you have to do. Simply come and change the settings. So for an 8-bit image, if at all you have 8 right here, change the blend mode to subtract, the scale has to be 2 and offset 128, and make sure the invert option is not turned on. and you'll see the textures on this gray layer. So ours is a 16-bit image, so I'll simply come and change it to add. The scale is to offset 0 and turn on the invert option and click OK. So I'm just going to come to the blend mode right here and change it from normal and change it all the way down to linear light, and we'll get back the image that it was meant to be. So after doing that, put these two in a group by pressing Ctrl G, or you can use Command G on the keyboard to group these layers and open up the group. So just come and select the low frequency layer and turn off the high frequency layer. The reason for doing this is because we only want to perfect or blend the transitions within the skin color or skin tones. So we're going to come to the brushes, right click and get the mixer brush tool. And if at all you don't have the mixer brush tool under the brushes, you can always locate the mixer brush tool just down here. So after selecting the mixer brush tool, for settings for whichever tool you select in Photoshop, they are always going to display above here. So make sure the hardness set to 0 and soft round brush is selected. Make sure clean brush is selected. Make sure the option that says clean the brush after each and every stroke has been selected. With a weight of 9%, load 75, mix at 90, flow at 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not turned on. And after doing that, the next thing is going to be blending the skin tone transition. So how to blend? We slightly zoom in. Make sure you are retouching at a distance. Then reduce on the size of the brush by using the bracket keys on the keyboard, the box bracket keys on the keyboard. So those are going to play around with different sizes of the brush. And how to blend? We left click and blend a given color. So left click and hold down to mix a given color. Left click and hold down to mix a color, just like that, so that you can have a very nice and smooth transition between those colors and blend them better. So mix the highlights alone, the midtones alone, and the shadows alone. And you can see I'm using a relatively small brush so that I can keep the original shape of the model's face. So just take your time as you're trying to blend the transitions between the skin. So I'm just going to come and blend just like that. When it comes to the nose, use a small brush to blend the dark areas of the nose, just like that. And use a small one to blend the highlight and blend this other side of the nose. So by just doing that, you can see the skin is looking better than it was before. So remember, the image may look a little bit plastic, but the reason for it looking plastic is because we have turned off the texture layer and we are only working with the colors or skin tone. So I'll just come to the neck area and also try to blend the transitions in the neck area, just like that. Come right here and blend just like that. So to mix, you basically left click and hold down and mix a given area. And when you feel like you're comfortable with that area, and go ahead and release the left click button, and you left click once again to mix on a brand new area. So that is how the mixer brush tool is going to be working for you when you're trying to blend the transitions between the skin tones. So I'm just going to come to the hand. Remember, we are doing skin retouching, so every area that has skin should be worked on, and you have to take your time trying to blend the transitions in each and every area that has or contains skin tone. So I'll just come to the hand right here and also blend, reduce on the size to work on the fingers. So a small size is going to be working on smaller areas. So you can see what we have been able to achieve so far. So just come to these knuckles right here and also use a small brush to try and blend and get rid of those dark areas on the knuckles of our subject. So if at all you're finding the video helpful, simply like this video and don't forget to subscribe if at all you are watching and you are not yet subscribed to this channel. So I'm just trying to blend just like that. So after working on the skin tones, the next thing is going to be turning on the high frequency layer, and you can see the overall before and after. You can see how nicely done the image has gotten to be. So after working on the skin tones, just come and select the high frequency layer and zoom into the image by using Ctrl+ on the keyboard, or you can use Command+ on the keyboard to zoom into the image. So the reason for zooming in is because we just want to remove the pimples or skin imperfections or the blemishes. So select the clone stamp tool right here, or you can press S on the keyboard to select the clone stamp tool, and make sure hardness set to 0 and the mode is normal, opacity in the flat 100%, align is checked, and the sample is set to current layer because we want to remove blemishes that are part of the currently selected layer, which is the high frequency layer. So to remove this pimple, hold down the option key on the keyboard and left click near, while still holding down the alternate key on the keyboard or the option key on the keyboard. Then after left clicking, release the alternate key on the keyboard and also release the left click button, and left click once again over the pimple or blemish to replace that blemish with clean skin. So basically that is how you can remove the pimples or blemishes when it comes to using the clone stamp tool and frequency separation in general after selecting our high frequency layer. So take your time as you're trying to clean up or remove all these skin imperfections. So after removing the blemishes, anything is going to be doing some little bit of color grading on the skin tone to have an even or uniform skin color. So you can say before and after for the retouching process. So in order to color grade better, we're going to first of all create a stamp visible layer by pressing Shift Option Command E on the keyboard, or you can use Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard to create a stamp visible layer. And after creating that stamp visible layer, we are simply going to come and create an empty layer. So just come right here and create an empty layer. And after creating that empty layer, the next thing is going to be coming and getting the brush tool. So get the normal brush tool and make sure the hardness is set to 0. Soft round brush has been selected. The mode is normal, opacity and the flat 100%. And after doing that, we just want to zoom into the skin. So for this, we only want to even out or create matching skin tone. So just choose an area that you want the rest of the skin to look like. So hold down the option key on the keyboard and click on an area that you feel should represent the rest of the skin color. And as soon as you do that, so you hold down the option key on the keyboard and left click to sample, you'll see that color displaying right there. So come the blend mode, I change it from normal and change it all the way down to color. And after doing that, increase on the size of the brush by using the bracket keys on the keyboard and start painting on the skin. So I'm just going to paint over the skin just like that. So take your time as you're trying to do this. So I'm just going to reduce on the size and paint just like that. Come the forehead area and also paint on the skin. So don't mind if I told you paint extras, because I'll show you I can easily erase since we are dealing with an empty layer. So I'm just going to come and paint just like that. So paint on each and every that has skin so that you can create even skin tones. So I'm just going to come and paint just like that. Come this arm area and also paint. So you have to take your time as you're trying to do this, because you don't want to mess up or do a mediocre kind of job. So just paint and also come and paint on this other side. So make sure that you have painted on each and every area that has or contains skin tones, so that the skin can look better and look a little bit more on the uniform side. So you can reduce on the size of the brush by using the bracket keys still and paint on each and every area. So if I told you you want to erase the effect, for example, from the lips or some parts of the hair, just come and get the eraser tool. Make sure the mode is set to brush, opacity at 100%, flat 100%, and you can now come and increase on the size of the eraser and simply paint over the areas you don't want to be affected by the color grading. So I'm just going to erase it from those areas and these parts of the hair. So just take your time as you're doing this. So eliminate the color grading from the eyes, and by just doing this, you can see you can also eliminate it from the lips in this case, and some parts of the nose. So just eliminate it from those areas. So we are also going to eliminate it from the hair, and keep on doing that until when you feel like you have done a decent job So I think like this is close to what I want. So eliminate it from the hair. Command minus to zoom out. Look at the image that we have gotten right now. So if at all you feel like you want to paint back colors, you can switch the back to the brush and paint the colors. So after painting, the next thing is going to be calming the opacity, because I feel like this is a little bit too much. So we are going to calm the opacity right here and reduce on the overall opacity so that we can have a better and natural and realistic looking skin tone. So you can see before, after, before, after. We have now even the skin tone, and the skin looks better than it was initially before. So I'll just take this slightly higher at around 49. Then when you feel like the skin tone is a little bit oversaturated still, just come the adjustments right here and simply come to hue and saturation. Then come and simply select the reds and just take the lightness of the reds down up to when you feel like the skin is looking better and a little bit less desaturated. So after doing that, we can do one final color grading process. So just come and create a black and white adjustment layer. Then come the blend mode and change it from normal to multiply. Come the opacity and simply reduce on the opacity to your liking. So I'm just going to use it to around 7. 7 is okay. Then you're going to create one final black selective color adjustment layer. Then come to blacks and simply come the science and create that kind of cinematic blacks, just like that. 5 is okay. Then we just want to whiten the eyes of our model. So to whiten the eyes, simply come right here to the adjustments, create a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Come and make sure master is selected. Take the saturation all the way down to around -70. Press Ctrl I, or you can use Command I on the keyboard to invert the effect. Zoom into the image by using Ctrl plus, or you can use Command plus on the keyboard to zoom into the image. Hold down the space bar key to drag. So, and simply paint in the eyes to whiten the eyes. So this is how I can easily whiten the eyes and teeth if at all you want in Photoshop. Command minus to zoom out. And let's see the overall before and after for the retouching and color grading in Photoshop. So this is the image initially, before, after, before, after, before, and after. So this is how you can easily edit and color grade in Photoshop from the very start to the very end. And finally, the next step is going to be saving an image in Photoshop so it doesn't change in color when we print it or post it on social media. So simply come right here to File, Export, and come to Export As. And it's going to open up the Export As dialog box right here. So make sure the format is set to JPEG right here, and make sure the quality is also set to the maximum. So make sure the quality is set to the maximum. The resample is set by cubic sharper, so make sure you click down here and select by cubic sharper. So the quality has to be taken all the way towards the maximum, and make sure the two options, that is convert to sRGB and also embed color profile, have been checked, and simply click on export to save the image in whatever location that you want to save the image. So this is how you can easily edit or retouch your photos in Photoshop from the very start to the very end. And if at all you have enjoyed this, simply like this video, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you have been watching and you're not subscribed yet to this channel. Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching, and see you in more videos on this channel. Don't forget to keep practicing and also keep creating.